One. Hello everyone. Today I'm with Christopher Macchio, the opera singer that performed at the Trump inauguration.
But there's nobody with the voice like this man. And so it's an honor that you
Trump organization. Thank you so much.
Now that is what you call a voice.
There you go. It's a video. My friend.
Okay, so Christopher, my first question is, how did you end up at the Trump inauguration?
Well, I've developed a relationship with President Trump over the last few years. I originally met him actually, but we've gotten closer, I guess, over the last 4 or 5 years, and so this past election cycle, I guess starting back at the RNC in Milwaukee, I began to really perform at some of the high profile rallies and so forth. So it was just, I guess, the next logical thing. I didn't make any assumptions, but I was hoping I would get the call. And a few weeks before the inauguration, I actually received that phone call from the president's team, and they confirmed that I would be delivering the national anthem, for which an opportunity for which I was extremely grateful, of course.
That's crazy. So how did you end up meeting him? Was it through like personal connections, friends? Did you go to Mar-a-Lago? Is it because you're a New Yorker?
I think all of that factored in. The I first met him in 2014. Somebody had canceled at Mar-a-Lago for New Year's Eve, and
Hmm.
this was literally the night before New Year's Eve, so December 30th, and
Right.
about 9, one of the members at Mar-a-Lago called me and said, I just had dinner with Donald, and he said there was a cancellation, and I suggested that you fill in, even though nobody knows who you are, that you're going to blow everybody away. And so I flew down, and I sang a few songs for the more than 1,000 guests that evening, and
Hmm.
then he loved it. He told everyone my voice was magnificent. He introduced me to Rod Stewart, and Rod Stewart then had me sing the following week at his 70th birthday party in Beverly Hills. So that was be introduced into the Trump orbit. But really, a relationship formed when I had the solemn privilege of performing for his brother Robert's funeral at the White
Hmm.
House. He was very fond of his brother, and his brother was a big fan of mine. And so when he heard my voice again at that beautiful ceremony that they put together, I think that's when things really clicked, and we started working together a little bit and developing more of a relationship.
Right, because it's a huge deal. I think hundreds of millions of people saw the inauguration worldwide. And I also saw you performing at the Mar-a-Lago when the fireworks were going, as see always in different Trump events. And I'm just curious, when did you start singing opera? Is it your full-time job, or was it your full-time job, or was it just a passion of yours
Oh,
that you just developed over the
that
years?
fireworks play was at Sterling. Was when I asked him and Elon Musk to join me on stage for God Bless America. So I've had a number of opportunities at different Trump properties. Um, but I'm sorry. Now, what was your question? I just wanted to clarify that one more point.
Yeah. So basically, my question is, when did you start singing opera? Is it your
Uh,
full-time career, or was it just
yeah.
something that you done on the
So
side and then you just blew out of proportion?
no, I you know, it was not something I had any interest in doing as a child. I was
Hmm.
very cerebral and focused on those things, and so when I discovered that I did in fact have a voice, almost by accident, I discovered it, and the
How
teacher
did you
that
discover it? How did you discover that you
well,
had a good
it
voice?
for to satisfy a graduation requirement, they had you had to take at least one art or music related credit, and so I rolled
Right,
my
right, right,
eyes
right.
when they informed me of that. I said, "All right, you can sign me up for chorus," and I knew I could carry a tune, and I figured I would have the benefit of the anonymity afforded by 100 other kids in the chorus. Well, one day that choir director asked each to sing ourselves, and I was scared to death. I refused. I told him he could put me out of class, but no way I was singing in front of everyone else by myself. So at
Mm,
the end of class, but he left and he pulled me aside and asked me to sing, just he and I, just so we could determine, what my voice was like. And once I did, he looked me in the eye and told me that I had a gift from God and an obligation to share that gift. So ever
mm-hmm,
since was 15 years old by that time.
mm-hmm,
I knew that I that I had some kind of obligation, some onus to share, this musical gift that I had been given, but I really didn't know exactly how to go about after having attended Conservatory of Music. I really wasn't sure how to get a proper career started. And so it was only as I was about to give up on music, many years later, in my early 30s, I was applying to law school. And in the midst of those applications, I got signed to a record deal, a British label actually, EMI Records, and a PBS public television concert special here in the States. And
mm-hmm.
it was that experience 12, 13 years ago. Um, Actually, no, I'm sorry. It was almost 15 years ago now that really started my proper career in opera. But
Right.
it was easy journey, and even since being signed, uh the record industry, the life of an artist, it has its ups and downs, and so it still
Mm.
has not particularly stable and easy along the way.
Right. I mean, I can imagine. They say, a majority of 95% of actors are unemployed at one point or another. So I would think it's the same when it comes to singers or opera singers. But I think you're doing quite well now. I feel like your profile has been raised significantly. Do you get a lot more calls now? Do you get booked more often,
Yes,
or is it still the same?
yes.
Right.
I think last few years, even before the politics and before my relationship with President Trump, I had been fortunate to develop professionally, and I'm one of the three New York tenors, and we travel around across the country, and so I have had other opportunities, but nothing. Uh, can compare to the platform that President Trump has given me over the last few years, and particularly the last 6 months.
Right.
It was really nothing, no one in the world besides him can provide that kind of a platform and put you in front of as many people as quickly as he can if he chooses to do so. And so again, I'm just extremely grateful that that somebody like him saw fit to do that, and I've done my best to try to do justice to the confidence that he placed in me.
Right. And in terms of politics, are you a Trump supporter?
Yes, I've tried to make it clear over the last few months that I've, entertained interviews that, you know, uh, a PR agency might tell me, well, why don't you just tell those folks that you're just happy to have the opportunity to perform for the office,
Yeah.
and really just about the music. But to be honest with you, um, I've been politically aware all my life, and I had never had the opportunity to live in a country with a president like we've had as the 45th and 47th president, where they really meant what they said, where
Yeah.
there's an effort to effectuate the policy that they talk about on the campaign trail. And
Mhm.
so I absolutely a wholehearted supporter of President Trump and everything that he's trying to accomplish. Absolutely. And I make no bones about that whatsoever.
Yeah, I think there's a change in mood. There's a shift in mood. 8 or 9 years ago, people were scared to come out and say they supported Trump because of the demonization of the mainstream media. If you supported Trump, you're a fascist, you're a Nazi, you're a far right. But I think he has become normalized now to the point I would say the entire world is behind him. Majority of Americans are clearly behind him. He won the popular vote, he won the electoral college, he won all the swing states. Every single state in the United States shifted more Republican. And also he's got, the Supreme Court, and that's what you call a clean sweep. So that just shows you how much power he has. I think in the next 2 to 4 years, he can do pretty much whatever he wants. And also the markets reflect that. When he got elected, the markets went through a massive bull run, and that just shows you the international community now is behind him. So you're a New Yorker, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Whereabouts do you live in New York?
I live on Roosevelt Island in a brand new building with a beautiful view of the Manhattan skyline. Right now, I'm actually out east on Long Island recovering from influenza. So
All right.
I think so far so good. The medication has taken effect, and so I can conduct the
Is that
podcast.
where you
But
grow up, where you're staying currently, or where did you grow up
yeah,
in New
yeah,
York?
this is the house that I grew up in. So
Oh,
this is
nice.
where I'm trying to recover out here, and
Is it
um,
called Long
yeah,
Island?
yeah, exactly. Yes.
Right, right, right.
hmm And
Because
we
look,
actually here in
yeah,
October, September actually at in Uniondale at Nassau Coliseum, not far from here.
because America and especially blue states such as New York, California, they've gone really downhill in the last decade or so. And it's the incompetent democratic leadership turning these cities into sanctuary cities. You have homeless people everywhere. You have the cost of living, the rents are going through the roof. People can't live. So do you think Trump being elected is going to make a difference to New York?
Yes, I think in at least two ways. Number one, as we've already seen in the first 10 days of his administration, there are levers that are available to President Trump at the executive level that are available that he can exert some kind of influence, whether it's budgetary influence, whether executive orders can kind of coerce and compel officials in these blue state environments to kind of go along with some of the policies. Um, you know, I have to say though that I think a lot of them, in a way, I think those executive orders and some of those things that look coercive on the surface, I think
Hmm.
in a way he's them cover to do what their common sense would have told them to do anyway, but they might
Right.
have feared politically unpalatable, and so now
Hmm.
they've got a great excuse. Don't blame me. I have to follow the law, and I'm obligated to go along with, uh, President Trump's executive orders. It really doesn't matter at the end of the day, why they do it, as long as they do what we all really know deep down needs to
Yeah.
be done.
But Trump also won the House and the Senate. So basically, every single executive order he signs is sure to go past. But what do you think specifically you should do to save the city? Like, what specific policy or what exactly
Well,
does New
you
York
know,
need right now?
from a quality of life standpoint, one of the biggest differences between, let's say, the Giuliani and to a lesser extent Bloomberg administrations versus the disastrous De Blasio and now the Adams administrations are, how issues of immigration and crime have been dealt with. And
Right.
uh, know, if basically making sure that the police are once again permitted to do the jobs that they
Hmm.
want to do, that will have in of itself a tremendous impact on the quality of life. Right now, there's no respect for the police on the streets of our cities.
Right.
People are deal with relative impunity. There's drug use that's out in the open. You can smell it, you can see it. And this is just is not any way for a civilized society to be permitted to exist. So really, a crackdown needs to occur from both an immigration standpoint and a criminal justice standpoint. Uh, and I think that President Trump can effectuate those things. Send ICE into the city to remove people who are undocumented, repatriate them back to the wonderful places from which they come, and then make sure that the law is enforced and start putting criminals back into the prisons that they belong in. And I think that'll
Right.
go a very way towards restoring a sense of safety in our public fora.
Yeah. And I just think that it's sad what's happened to America over the last 10, 15 years. Also, another example of what happened in California, which was probably, LA was probably the best city in the world 10 years ago. And now it's full of homeless people, it's full of fentanyl overdoses, and the fire was, icing on the cake. But I think that fire in California will lead to a lot of people shifting from Democrat to Republican, because I think the fire was caused by the incompetence of the Democratic Party. They couldn't manage it. But also on a philosophical standpoint, if you have millions of illegal immigrants coming to your cities, sleeping on the streets, and apparently there were arsonists setting up the fire. And maybe some of the arsonists were illegal aliens. We don't know that. But just from a philosophical standpoint, when you keep doing the wrong things, then over time these mistakes add up, and then you're going to end up having something like the fire in LA. Other than that, you're one of the people that probably know Donald Trump better than others. Like, you know him more up close and personal, because you said you've met him like 10 years ago. How many hours have you spent with him in general, do you think?
Well, look, I can tell you, I have to qualify. It's, I don't play golf. So right there's people that spend a lot of time on the golf course with President Trump, and I still have to learn how to swing a club. So I'll tell you that. But if I added it, I don't know, maybe a total of 100 hours, let's say.
That's still a long time. That's still a long
And
time, 100 hours.
majority of people have had the opportunity to spend in his presence. And so I can tell you it's certainly more than enough for me to have seen examples of his really gracious, generous spirit and
Yeah.
kindness and thought elements that are often denied or overlooked in the mainstream media. I've seen it manifest firsthand. I've seen him be very, very kind and gracious to other officials or just to people in private settings. My own parents. I think when I introduced my mother, it looks like the photo of my mother shaking hands with President Trump looks like she's meeting Elvis Presley himself. And he was just really
Yeah.
kind and gracious.
I think
So
there's a misconception about Donald Trump, because everyone that actually
yeah.
knows him up close and personal says that actually he's a very warm guy. He's got a big heart. He's very funny. He's very gracious to people. He makes people feel important. But at the same time, he's very tough and he's very businesslike. And I think in the last 10 years, we've had the demonization of Donald Trump. Oh, he's the new Hitler. He's a rapist. He's sexist. He's racist, every negative connotation you can attach to someone, the mainstream media try to attach to him. But in reality, the people that actually know him, that have spent time with him, people like yourself, people like Piers Morgan and others, they say, no, actually, he's a very funny guy. He's a very warm guy. But, he's got instincts of a warrior. And I think that's what we need in this country. Just because you're an alpha male or if you're a tough man doesn't mean naturally you're aggressive or you're a bad person. And I think that one of the reasons I love Trump winning, it was like a middle finger to that whole toxic masculinity and the whole woke stuff that went before him. So I think it's a monumental moment, not just for American politics, but also for world politics.
Absolutely. I think has been a catalyst for this right correction. You know,
Mm.
people like to throw out reactionary, they try to be alarmist about it. Actually, really, what you're seeing across much of Europe and other parts of the world, Latin America, is really a course correction back to common sense. And what
Right.
that means is doesn't mean that the world is swinging towards a unipolar authoritarianism. Actually, whatever pluralities exist will continue to exist. It's just that the center of gravity and the center of those discussions will be recentered towards an area that comprises common sense rather than
Yeah.
this that we've been obsessed with in the West for the last 20 years.
Exactly. And I'm just so happy because I think on all fronts, he's gonna drain the swamp. He's defeated the establishment, he's defeated the mainstream media. And I really see this as a dawn of a new age, not just for America, but also for world politics. Because I'm in the UK and I've done a bit of work with the Reform Party, and I know people like Nigel Farage. And we need the same thing happening in the United Kingdom, because we have a Labour government now in which, you know, they throw people in jail because of a post on Instagram or Facebook. So we don't really have freedom of speech anymore. So I think what you guys are, you're like 3 4 years ahead of us, you know. But I think the same thing,
Exactly.
this catalyst that is Trump, is going to burn through UK. Also, you see the rise of, you know, right-wing parties in Germany, in France. So I think establishment politics is dead. I don't even see it as right-wing or left-wing anymore. I see it more as populist and establishment. And the
Right.
establishment is dying, and all the forces that were controlling the world after World War II, they are dying, and we are, with, you know, seeing with a new dawn, a new age, people like Elon Musk, RFK Jr. that just about to get confirmed, you know, Tulsi Gabbard, all these people were Democrats before, you know, and they switched to the Republican
E-
Party. And that just shows you it's not a left or right issue anymore.
Exactly. It's time, in my opinion, you know, you
Mm,
may indeed people in the UK start to come to that realization and they say, you know, if there was a time that the Labour Party actually represented the interests of the common man, that is
mm,
no longer. And, you know, the sooner that they might arrive at that conclusion, I think the better off they'll be.
mhm. Yeah. So, you know, I know your friend, Andy Allen,
Yes.
and I actually done a podcast with him. I think it's a year ago now, because about a year ago, I went viral, and he was one of the people that actually approached me. And I think we done an hour-long podcast. So I actually found out about you through his posts, because, you know, he was
Hmm.
putting you on his story. And I was
Right.
like, wow, that's amazing. He's got a friend that is this opera singer. And then I started following you, and then I saw you at the inauguration. And then I was like, you know what? I really have to interview this guy, because this is really interesting. And it's quite big what you're doing, because I think hundreds of millions of people have seen you. You might not have as many followers on social media as some of these other people, but the fact that you performed
Well,
that in
I
the
haven't been
inauguration, yeah,
think I did 300 posts over the last 15 years since I've had
yeah,
Instagram. So not exactly the most conscientious, you know, audience building efforts on my part. So the followers that I have, I'm just blessed to have because they've had the opportunity to see me in other mediums. And going forward, you can expect that the content I'll be putting out is going to be more intentional to be able to fulfill that responsibility of reaching a wider audience on these various
exactly.
media.
You should, because you're on a momentum now. You're on a ball, and that's exactly what I'm here to do. So, yeah, guys, we're going to be clipping this podcast up. The whole version is going to be on YouTube, but I'm going to make some clips, and I'm going to be releasing it on Instagram, TikTok, and I'm going to be collaborating with Christopher. Christopher, it was very nice talking to you. I might come to New
Oh,
York and see you. If I do come, let's have a meeting for sure. Me, you, Andy, all three of us. I might go to Miami as well. I'll be there around March, April time. So it will be really nice to see you, and maybe we can do something in person. Any last words?
no, no, this was a pleasure. And it's I definitely share your hope that that this shift continues globally and that we can all, like I said, it's not about dictating things to people, just restoring common sense.
Exactly. Ladies and gentlemen, Christopher Macchio, thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much.
Till next time. Bye bye.